it's Whitney from EcoVeganGal.com, and this is a video that's going to fall into the feel category of my website, which is actually something you're going to see a lot of. I've been recording all these videos of it lately, and I just haven't gotten them right yet, but this one I think is going to be on the right track. You know, for me, it's interesting that I started calling my website EcoVeganGal.com because it's so much more than those specific words. First of all, people always gravitate towards the word vegan, but for me it's about a healthy, happy way of living. And for me, veganism was kind of the way that I got into this lifestyle. And same with the environment. So those two things together really put me on this path. But the longer I've been on this, I realize it's much bigger than those. It's much bigger than being a vegan, and it's much bigger than being an environmentalist. It's to me all about overall health and happiness, and it's all so interconnected. Is kind of finding that harmony within our lives and the world around us, you know, who we are as a person and how that affects the rest of the people and the rest of the beings and the earth around us. And it's the more I've got into it over the years, the more connected everything seems. The way, you know, our food and the way everything that we buy and everything that we do, it just has such a profound impact on us. And I have this vision of the whole world just being healthier and happier. And it's a big deal, but I feel like that's why it's so important for me to be doing my website and to be spreading this word across YouTube. So that's just a little introduction into why I'm going to start doing a lot more of these videos that are about feelings and inspiration and just everyday living tips. And today I got inspired to do this video after reading an article in Well-Being Journal. Never read this before, but it happened upon my desk. And this is an article called Boundaries and Complete Health by Shannon McRae, who has a Ph.D. And I found this really interesting. I wasn't going to read it until I saw this one quote on here that I put on my Facebook. And it says, "When you are not living your dream, you are resisting it, and that is the same as resisting well-being." So I started reading the rest of the article, and I found some really great things in here that apply to things that I think a lot about. And it's about boundaries. I find that one of the big things that a lot of people are missing in their lives, and something that I'm constantly working towards, is just kind of becoming more centered and respectful of yourself, and feeling more in control of yourself and feeling more empowered. It's something that for some reason very few of us are taught at a young age, and so we go through life with all these emotional issues that affect us for the rest of our lives, and some people never get over this. And it's something that I've come up against a lot. I've always been a very sensitive person, and I've spent a lot of my life feeling kind of beat up by other people emotionally, and not really recognizing how it was affecting me until actually I got more into this eco-vegan way of living. And for some reason, that brought me all into this well-being and this wellness stuff. And I started to realize that a lot of the feelings I were having were coming from other people, and I was letting it get to me so strongly, and I was letting it affect my self-esteem. And I would say in the past year, especially, I've made huge leaps and bounds in that, and found so many ways to get over all these hurdles I've had. And I just feel so empowered and so much better and just so much bigger and yeah, just all these great things that you've probably seen. You know, especially if you've been following me, you've probably seen those transformations happen. Even my physical appearance has changed a lot. I think because I'm starting to get it. I'm starting to put all these puzzle pieces together and realize all the detrimental things that were going on in my life that I didn't really understand, but it was causing me so much harm. And a lot of us attribute it to the way that we're raised, and it's hard for me because I grew up with an incredibly loving family, and every day almost I'm digging deep. I'm like, where did all these things come from? What set me up for these quote-unquote failures, and what made me so sensitive and react to the people around me? And this article kind of sheds some light on it. It's not incredibly in-depth. It's just really skimming the surface here, but it does bring some really good points about setting boundaries and and kind of the way that we're taught to deal with things in life. So I just want to glance over this. The beginning of the article, she talks about how we exist in an interconnected field of energy that is always flowing and bringing us into a constant energy of well-being. And energy is something I really believe in. I think a lot of us are taught that energy is like this like spiritual crazy thing, like, oh, what is that? We can't really define it. We can't see it. But we can feel it. And some people take it to a major extreme, but even if you don't really believe in that stuff, I really think that it's so true. The more that you start to examine it and how things work, it does have this energy. How do you explain a lot of our feelings? A lot of our feelings are based on this energetic thing that we have, right? And I'll talk more about that in other videos. But there was a quote from a physicist that says, "Science cannot solve the ultimate mystery of nature. And this is because, in the last analysis, we ourselves are part of nature and therefore part of the mystery that we are also trying to solve." Music and art are, to an extent, also attempts to solve or at least to express the mystery. But to my mind, the more we progress with either, the more we are brought into harmony with all nature itself. That's another really good summation of why it's important to connect more with nature, why environmentalists is important, and why many aspects of veganism are important as well, is just doing things that are compassionate and loving and taking other people and beings into account. But the rest of the article is really about respecting yourself and setting boundaries for yourself and for people around you. And the writer goes into a lot of depth about how at a younger age, we're very impressionable age, especially by our parents, but other people that we look up to, set boundaries for us and teach us about these boundaries. And a lot of times, they're not always appropriate or right for us, but because they were taught improperly, it just keeps getting passed down and down to us. For example, a lot of our boundaries are about honoring other people's space. And while that's usually a good thing, sometimes we take it to too much of an extreme and we don't take ourselves into account there. Now, what really brings us back all into health is that these thoughts can be very detrimental to us and therefore cause a lot of stress to us and therefore affect our body. And that's something I'm incredibly fascinated with, is how negative thoughts can actually affect our muscles. There are tons of anecdotes in here, but evidence all over the place about how negativity and stress can actually cause a lot of problems with us. In fact, there's a quote in here that says, "The very thought that we are going to be ill causes a resistance to the flow of health. It is akin to sending a boundary against something positive coming into your life." So if you think about that, that's why, to me, it's so important to be very positive and loving and peaceful all the time. And I found that even as a journalist, I sometimes worry that comes across too nice. And I'm starting to realize more and more that why should I even be afraid of being too nice? It's ridiculous. I'm trying to spread this message of harmony and love and positivity to other people. I think it's just because for some reason positivity is often seen as a weakness, as being too sweet. For whatever reason, people just think that it keeps you too vulnerable and therefore you're opened up enough for harm. But the more I read about it, the more I realize it's actually kind of more of the opposite. When we keep ourselves too closed off and we're protecting ourselves too much from other things because we're so scared, our muscles tense up. And when our muscles are tensed up, they can start to get harmed themselves. It's just like, if you think about anything that's held too tightly for too long, it hurts. Your muscles start to hurt. And a lot of us unknowingly hold all of this tension and stress inside of our bodies. And, this article is just full of examples on this, and it's just so fascinating. You wonder, the causes of this, and they're the causes of a lot of illnesses that we have, that we just kind of say, oh, that's just part of life. And that's another big thing that I'm such an advocate for, is it's like, I don't believe that humans should be dying from heart disease and cancer and diabetes and all of these other issues that we face. They're actually so related to the food that we eat, to the environment around us and everything we're putting into the environment, and also to the negativity we hold in our thoughts. And I feel like even the healthiest vegan, the most conscious environmentalist could benefit from thinking more positively about themselves and the rest of the world around them, to reduce these stresses. And this is actually a huge issue with veganism in general. Veganism is looked upon as being negative because, for whatever reason, I think vegans get so worked up and angry in general, many vegans, because they're so passionate and they want other people to believe this and join them and understand all the benefits of being vegan. And so they become angry with the rest of the world, and they have all this tension, and they're yelling and they're fighting, and they're ending up in these arguments, and the other people that they're with are trying so hard to defend why they're not vegan. And both parties just have this stress and this anger. And I found over the years that that's not doing anybody any good. So that's why I have such a positive, loving, non-judgmental, non-self-righteous approach to all of this, is because I don't want that for myself, but I also don't want to pass on any anger or stress or guilt to anybody else, because that's not helping their health. And like I mentioned at the beginning, health to me is the overall message of everything that I do. So those are kind of the main things, but I want to skim this over real quick. It was talking about this one woman had an illness, and the author thinks that it was because she had stopped nurturing herself. She had stopped listening to her own voice about who she was and what she wanted in her life. The stress led to the illness. Another example was a man, and he didn't listen to the guidance about what is good for him or bad for him. And that's a whole other thing, is that because we're paying so much attention to the world around us and how we think that we should act, we don't listen to our intuition. We're taught at a very young age to push our intuitions aside for whatever reason, and then we don't even understand ourselves anymore. We have such a limited surface level understanding, and most of us turn to other people to help us with that. So we turn to psychologists, and we turn to doctors to give us drugs or to exams or whatever else. And most of the healing that we can do emotionally and physically is just right here within us to begin with. But we're so out of tune with it that we don't even know where to start anymore, which is another big mission of mine. Lastly, a couple more thoughts. It is important to be aware of when you start to become emotionally attached to something negative, because it can affect your health. Being in your center of peace is being in complete health. So I feel really good about this video. I know it's a long one, but man, it is so, so important, and that is why you'll be seeing a lot more of that and tied in to everything else that I'm doing. Just becoming more zen and blissed out and more loving, and all of this. It's just everything that we can do has such an impact, and the healthier our minds get, the healthier our bodies get, and the healthier we treat the rest of the world. But the opposite is true as well, because for me, it was kind of happening the other way around. I started treating the rest of the world really well, and that in turn helped me treat myself better, and everything has benefited for me. So I would absolutely love to hear what you have to say and what you think about this. Please leave your comments here below in YouTube or wherever else you happen to see this. And if you have any questions, or if anything that you would like me to address in future videos, you can click the link here below on YouTube, which has a little form that you can fill out. That's the best way to get in touch. And you can reach me on all the social media networks, which are also down below. And of course, subscribe so you're first to know when I have more videos like this or anything related in the eco-vegan world. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to visit ecovegangal.com for more inspiration and more information on living this lifestyle, and I look forward to communicating with you.